Honestly, I was thinking of writing a joke for this opening segment, but there's not really much of a joke because that's kind of what this deck is. But I know a lot of people like this deck, and I also love this deck very much. And I've been very, very excited to actually play and talk about it. The effectiveness of this deck is a different issue, but I want to talk about this deck as a whole in terms of how I think the deck can be best built competitively, as well as talking about just my thoughts about this deck in general. Because Phantom Blaster Dragon is a deck that Blaster Dark is a deck that has been with me for many years. It's one of the earliest decks in Standard I ever covered and gone through and even played myself, even competitively. My first ever WGP deck is Phantom Blaster Overlord. You can look it up. It's something that means a lot to me, and in being able to afford this deck, I really want to talk about it. I know there's a lot of different ways to build this deck. I'm not averse to that fact, but today I want to present on my current list and why I really like it. So let's just get right into that. Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Mr. here. Today we are back to talk about Ren Icon, Phantom Blaster Dragon. This is the title card for DZBT15, which is Hollow Thunders and I forgot, that's the Japanese name. What do they call it in English? Strike of Illusionary Shadows, right? So they got rid of all the Narukami theming because we just can't have good things anymore. Today we're here to talk about Ren Icon. Ren Icon is the brand new Icon deck from this set, which I know most of you hate Icon decks at this point. But I love it. I love it because this is the one good application of Icon wherein you take a dying deck and just overhaul it completely. For those of you who don't know, Phantom Blaster Dragon, Phantom Blaster Overlord, I guess, Phantom Blaster something, this deck has not been doing well in Standard. It has not. Like, Phantom Blaster Dragon came out in 2021, back in DBTO2, then you got Phantom Blaster Overlord in DBTO5 in 2022, right? Did I repeat the number? 2021, 2022, yeah. And then after that, we were just hung out to dry, completely, right? Like, this deck has gotten so little Divine support. Recently, he had one tournament promo at the end of 2025, after 3 years of getting nothing, straight up. And I covered that in the Phantom Blaster Overlord video for DivineZ. Links in the description. Phantom Blaster Overlord is also the very first deck I covered in DivineZ, if you can believe that. Like, that is how much this deck means to me. So being able to finally have a Phantom Blaster Dragon that's playable this time is important. Now, before we carry on, this whole deck is from DZBT15 and there are a few generics you can play inside. For the purpose of this video, I am releasing it before the ban list, so I don't really know what is going to get banned or not. This is not the video for that, okay? This is for me talking about the DZBT15 environment. By the time the ban list comes out, it's going to be like the Buddy Fight 2 meta / DZBT16. So I can't really speak for that meta for, people that are looking back. I can only talk about what I can say at the point of this recording, which is this deck's build is alright. The deck is fine as it is. It is a blind go first deck. Grade 3 going first is Phantom Blaster Dragon's strongest trait, and then after that you just have to beg and pray. You really just have to beg and pray. This deck does not have a win con. This deck's win con is Psycholia, right? Like, the whole point is you are going to check triggers and you are going to like it. But if you just don't check triggers, you're worse than Hexorb Sorceress. And I mean that literally. So yeah, that's really about all I can say about this deck. As a brief intro, now we'll get into the actual cards itself, and then after that I'll talk about my thoughts about the deck at the end. So let's talk about it from the start. So first and foremost, we have the right deck. So the right deck, because it's all Ren Icon, we have to replace it with the new full bow. I miss my OSPs, honestly. The new Blast Through Javelin, who, the Rocher always looks good in most art season. I don't think I've ever seen a bad Blaster Javelin art. And of course, with the brand new Blast Through Dark, now with Ren possessing him, I know the Ren fanboys love this art. I'm not a Ren fanboy, so I'm not. This is not my cup of tea, but the skill is so good, I'll forgive it. And of course, we have the fanboy himself, Phantom Blaster Dragon. Oh boy, that one we have a lot to talk about him. So we'll get to that in a bit. So full bow is just full bow. This one reminds me a lot of V. Like, this artwork is uncannily V-like to the point where I think this was his V art that was probably in the draft works. Because there's no way this card really looks like it was ripped out of V. Like, am I the only one who thinks that? I feel like I must be, right? But come on, look at this. Yeah, but this is probably the most cute full bow art in my opinion. Like, he's just sitting down. Look at bro, he's just sitting down. Blaster Javelin on the other hand is nowhere near cute. He's still aggressive as ever. He's like, rah, I'm gonna kill you, rah, stop saying you're the best, rah. Okay, so Blaster Javelin, when he rides atop a full ball, with a Ren Icon, you look at the top 7 cards of your deck. No, you need to reveal a grade 3 Ren Icon in the right deck, right? I should probably say that's the cost. You reveal a grade 3 Ren Icon in the right deck. Then look at the top 7 cards of your deck. Choose a Ren Icon without Sentinel from among them and add it to your hand. Then shuffle the deck. So even though we do have a brand new Perfect Guard, a brand new Shadow Paladin Perfect Guard, which is hilarious because we already had one, right? We have the new Mag Lear. Okay, I can't really call him new, but I love Mag Lear, right? Like look at him, he's so cool, right? But you can't add Mag Lear. So Kai Icon fans stay winning. I can't do it. It's okay. Like it's fine. Like if you know what Blaster Javelin and Full Bow used to do, is historically they dig for Blaster Dart, right? And he gets 2000 power, and then Blaster Javelin's a rear guard searches for Phantom Blaster Dragon. The thing is, you kind of already have a right deck, right? So like you don't really need to search for them anymore. So you can now just search for anything that's a Ren Icon. Albeit though, I will say you absolutely do want to prioritize Phantom Blaster Dragon if you can. Mainly because this deck is so Persona right reliant that if you just don't Persona, you will die, right? This deck does not do very much on turn 4 onwards. This turn 3 is its greatest strength, so you should look for Persona right if and when you can. Other than that, just search for anything that comes on top 7, it's fine. You don't really need to search for like your right deck pieces to go up the right chain. Like this is not 2011 anymore, so yeah. Albeit Blaster Javelin obviously is a lot better than his 2021 counterpart, which is just Superior Core Guy, but that's also because Blaster Dark used to require a sacrifice when he's placed on the Vanguard circle. This Blaster Dark, on the other hand, is a 1-to-1 replica of the Aichi Icon Blaster Blade. Link in the description for that video. So he does not actually need a sacrifice anymore. In fact, he now uses an alternate cost in energy, which I think is a lot better. But I miss 2021 Blaster Dark, because 2021 Blaster Dark was such an interesting design for Keta Sanctuary that up till today, I dare say he's a good right deck to play, right? If you want a more aggressive right deck that can, counter aggression and push for drives, I still think that's a wonderful right deck to play. As a generic, like even for decks like Graham Grey Seek. But the problem is that, in Ren Icon, we kind of just want to play the Ren Icon stuff, so we can't really do that anymore. But that's fine, I'm not complaining about it. I loved 2021 Blaster Dark. Like, that was pinnacle design, if you ask me. Moving back though to Blaster Javelin, on the other hand, Blaster Javelin is one more skill in the soul and in the draw. You can Count Blast 1, remove this card and put it back into the right deck. Search your whole deck for a copy of Blaster Dark or your drop zone and add it to your hand. And then you shuffle the deck if it came from the deck. So you're gonna find out very soon that Blaster Dark is the entire deck. And I mean that in the literal sense that he is the entire deck. This whole deck focuses on 2 cards. Blaster Dark, Junos, and Phantom Blaster Dragon. If you do not have Blaster Dark around, or if you do not have, a Persona right Phantom Blaster Dragon, you lose the game. I'm not kidding, you lose the game. You deadass cannot play this game at all. The rest of every single Ren Icon card, every single generic in this deck is built for the specific purpose that you are going to call Blaster Dark. 90% of these decks hype, aura moments, whatever the kids say nowadays, yeah, it's all just calling a double rare and praying to God you check yellow color cards. That's it. That's the whole deck. You can end the video now. That's the whole deck. And you know what? I love it. I love it so much. The fact that the deck is so simple is like, if you remember the original anime, Ren gives his Blaster Dark deck to Aichi, and then Aichi can just start winning on day 1, right? That's because Blaster Dark's deck is brain dead. You just farm card advantage, swing at the Vanguard, corrupted charging lance, and just stab the guy and just goes, ah! Like, that's the whole deck, right? Yeah, we can do it again. Bushiroad went through an entire 15 years of R&D, printed a whole new archetype clan icon nonsense just to end up at this again. And you know what? I love it. I love it so much. Honestly, this deck may be doomed in terms of future-proofing, but this deck is so fun. So fun. Okay, but let's actually talk about Blaster Dark. Since he is the star of the deck, we do actually need to go through the deck in full, and that includes Blaster Dark. So Blaster Dark, when placed on the Vanguard rearguard circle, if your Vanguard has a Ren Icon, you can Count Blast 1 or Energy Blast 3, choose from your opponent's Vanguard to retire it. If this card is placed on the Vanguard circle, you draw a card, and for the rest of the game, you cannot write any other card that doesn't have a Ren Icon. So, you know what this means. There is no Majesty Lord Blaster with a Ren Icon. Alright, I had to say it because someone was gonna ask me. This is so well written that it locks. You cannot write anything else without Ren Icon, that it basically kicks you out of the possibility of even just, you know, playing this in another deck. Like Aichi Icon, the rules that you flip an Aichi Icon the right deck, right? And then haha hee hee, that's what you do. But this guy, no, this guy checks every step at every stage just to ensure you do not even consider playing him in the original 2021 Phantom Blaster Overlord, which is like, oh my goodness, why? It's so strange. I like this card a lot, especially when you read through the next two skills. I just don't get it. It's so strange of a design to me to go down this route. But you know what? It's fine. There's nothing really else we can do. So yeah, just bear in mind that for those of you who are Majesty or Blaster fans, this is not going to include this card. It's not. They're going to print the Blaster Dart Aichi Icon if they want that to happen. It's not going to be with this Blaster Dart. So I just want all of us to set our expectations. You know, that's how this deck's going to be. So yeah, I know because a lot of people will ask. I really just have to get out of the way and just say that. Okay. Let's talk about other two skills. We'll talk about third skill first, and that is when this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater Vanguard. Sorry, when this unit, when this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater Vanguard, if your Vanguard has a Ren Icon, this unit gets 10,000 power until the end of the turn, I believe. Let me just zoom in on that. Pretty sure it is until the end of the turn. Am I right? Yes, it is until the end of the turn. So going second, it is a 20k beat stick. Again, this is exactly the same as the original Aichi Icon Blaster Blade, so there is no difference here. And that is nice to have because, you know, Blaster Dart, like I said, this is like the main card of the deck. So now that I've been hinting at that for a while, I have to explain to you why. That's his second skill, right in between these two. And that is, when your grade 3 or greater Vanguard with a Ren Icon attacks, if your Vanguards have not stood this battle phase, you can Soul Blast 1 and stand this unit. If you stand this unit, and two or more of either player's rearguards are retired by your Vanguard's ability this turn, this card can perform drive checks for the battles that it attacks until the end of the turn. So basically, it has to check 1, that your grade 3 or greater Ren Icon attacks, 2, that you have not repeated this effect yet, 3, that your Vanguard has retired 2 or more rearguards this turn, which, by the way, that is guaranteed. Like, as long as you play the game, you're gonna get that, okay? And then you can perform drive checks for every battle that Blaster Dart attacks from here on out. Now, if you check Velnot and give it to a standing Blaster Dart, that is 2 drives. Okay, I have to say that now, that is 2 drives. Unfortunately, as you will soon find out later in the video, I'm not going for that. I'm just going to kill you with, you know, critical trigger, because that's what Psycholia wants, right? So yeah, but if you do wish to play Velnot and stand Blaster Dart, I'd like you to know that that's absolutely viable and it's absolutely okay. I just think that's way too specific of a scenario to happen that I'd just rather not gamble on it. But if you want to, I think go ahead. It's absolutely fine. Whichever you pick, red OT or blue OT, completely alright. Eidos Faro and Velnot are very good options, so just bear that in mind for us. Okay, so now that we've gone through that, let's ride up Phantom Blaster Dragon. So Phantom Blaster Dragon is the grade 3 of this deck. Surprise, obviously. Now, obviously, they're gonna print Phantom Blaster Overlord down the line. I don't think that's a joke to you. And that's because of his first skill, which is when you ride another grade 3 Ren Icon on top of this card, it triggers as a regular Persona Ride. So basically, you know, they want you to stick on Phantom Blaster Dragon for the first turn, and then they're going to go on to Phantom Blaster Overlord. Yeah, because there's no way you're riding Barb card in this deck. If you ride Barb card in this deck, effectively just throw yourself out a window. You will suffer less pain. The second skill is during your turn. Sorry. As long as your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, and you have a Blaster Dart in the soul, this unit gains 5,000 power on both turns. For some extremely unknown reason, they've decided to make Phantom Blaster Dragon Majesty Lord Blaster. I don't know why. I can't You know, after everything I've praised Bushiroad for the great card design, having a Vanguard with higher stats on the opponent's turn is some of my favorite design space personally, because of, you know, Majesty Lord Blaster, Platinum Hazel, Blaster Raider Vanguard, you name it, I'm really in love with that effect. But this is like the last candidate to come queue up in the Majesty Lord Blaster shop and go, excuse me, I like a power bonus too. Like, why are you here? Like, What has Blood done to deserve this? I don't understand. It's so strange that they wrote that, and I've started thinking there must be an ulterior purpose, and then I realized why. They want you to keep this copy of Ren Icon Blaster Dark in the soul, so that you will buy 3 other copies of Ren Icon and put it in the right deck, in the main deck for Blaster Dark, and then you will search your entire deck with this Blaster Dark, rather than soul blasting out Blaster Dark and then looping this one copy and then filling up the rest of your Keta deck with generics. Yes, I'm really not kidding you. It sounds like a conspiracy theory. It sounds stupid as hell. But when you read every other Ren Icon card in this deck, you're going to realize I'm absolutely right. It is such a weird way to force people to buy out extra copies of Blaster Dark. Especially when they already just printed Blaster Javelin, who says, you know, add from the drop zone. So like, they're going so far to make you want to put Blaster Dark in your soul. And I can respect that. Honestly, this is the kind of design I do like at the end of the day, because this is how the deck's designed to be. They want you to have more Blaster Darks. It's the same as Ren. Ren played more than one Blaster Dark. So in them forcing you to keep a Blaster Dark in the soul and then having the rest boogie around as just random rearguards, I liked it. As compared to Phantom Blaster Overlord back in 2022, you just loop like one copy of Blaster Dark from your right deck and maybe a second one if you're scared of like buying like, you know, Shoujo Doji. Like, that design is not what they want here. They want you to play with this, and this is a great way to nudge players to do in this direction. So honestly, I can respect them for doing that. This is an interesting choice. But you know what I can't respect them for? This last skill. This last skill is really bad, man. Counter blast 1, act once per turn. Choose 2 rear guards with Ren Icons and retire them. Choose one of your opponent's rear guards, retire it, and then this unit gets 10,000 power plus 1 critical, and then your opponent's Vanguard gets minus 5,000. This is an effect that doesn't need to choose the opponent's Vanguard, so even if your opponent's Vanguard has resist, he still gets minus 5. You know, Phantom Blaster Dragon has done a lot of things in the past. He's done guard restrict in Diablo, he's done deal and direct damage with V. In Standard, he used to just be a swipe bot for swipe bot. Now he's just DB, now he's just Wellstra? I don't get it. Going first, obviously this is a devastating effect, putting your opponent's Vanguard at 5k and then threatening 4 swings, because, you know, Blaster Dark. Like, that is very deadly, and that's why this deck, Blind Go First, is probably one of the strongest Keta decks we've seen in a long time. Almost as good as You've Looked. But like, if you're gonna sit back and tell me, oh yeah, this effect works on turn 5 really well, I'm gonna go, I don't know about that. Like, Counter Blast 1 retire 2 Ren Icons. Even though you have multiple cards that count as 2 different Ren Icons, that is still a pretty steep cost to maintain over a period of time. And then you only minus 5k? Like, it's not like a scaling effect where, like, for example, oh, if you Persona right this turn, you get minus 10 instead of minus 5. Like, no, nothing. It's weird. But of course, going first, this is a degenerate skill, right? This is a skill that absolutely will make people quit this game. But like, it feels like they were way too focused on their turn 3, knowing that they'll print a Phantom Blaster Overlord down the line. That's why they didn't need to future-proof and, you know, add additional design space into this deck. But now it just feels like the deck just meant to play turn 3 and then just sit back and clap and relax. But like, what the hell do you do on turn 4? Like, okay, Persona right. And then what? I don't know, man. I don't know, man. But it's like, this is a design space that is obviously going to be left up to Phantom Blaster Overlord to tackle. Because Ren Icon was not given an alternate grade 3 right Vanguard that you actually want to write. Because in the grade 3 spot, we only need to play 4 copies of Phantom Blaster Dragon with Run in the main deck. And there's no other Ren Icon card at all in terms of the grade 3s. Like, that is it. Okay, that's literally it. There's no point. So I'll tell you what else you play. You play 1 copy of Primordial Heartblaze just for this period of time. And then you play 4 copies of Nebula Knight's Order. Everyone can now groan and go, Miss, I hate Pal. I also hate this card, okay? I want this card banned. But like, there is nothing else this deck does at this point. You might as well just play a card that lets you speed through the whole deck, because there's literally nothing else to play. And as an added bonus, I'm not playing Catapult, okay? There is no Tayfort, there is no Selgout. I'm not doing that. I know most people go, but Miss, I'd rather just play, you know, Ren Lottery and call my multiple rear guards and drive check 6 times a turn. You're not doing that here. You're not. Just play as Kidani intended. Just sack, just kill, build a board, rush. That's it. You're not required to do anything else. Don't force yourself to do anything else. In addition, Primordial Heartblaze is also just another Persona right. This deck is not Blonde Dazzle where, like, you know, Persona Right is like an active part of the deck, but Ren Icon is such a bad deck in terms of the late game that the turns you don't Persona Right, you just lose. Like, it is so strange to me that you make such a good Phantom Blaster Dragon, but then make him so turn 3 minded that like every subsequent turn he just suffers for being alive, and I don't get it. So yeah, the TLDR, if you can't afford like the rest of the grade 3 cards, is that it's fine, because down the line we'll just replace all of these anyways, right? And that's really about it. I know Babka is a good card. Like, people say, oh Miss, why don't you play Babka? I want to, okay? Once this card gets banned, I'm gonna play Babka at 4. I'm really not joking. Babka is such a good safety net, but like I'm just not playing it for this time being, because why not just play the better safety net in Never the Knight's Order? Yes, I know it's 5,000 yen a piece, but I have it. I'll just do it. It's the most optimal competitive way to do it anyways, right? But do I like doing it? No, I don't like this card at all. It's terrible design. I hate it. So let's move on to the grade 2s now. The grade 2s are very simple. Actually, no. That's a complete lie. I'm so sorry. The grade 2s are not simple. In fact, the rest of the deck is not that simple. Because now you're going to understand what I meant in the opening when I said that this deck is effectively only Blaster Dark and Phantom Blaster Dragon. Every other card from here on out is strictly meant to facilitate this gameplay. Allow me. Grade 2, you ride into Blaster Dark, and then you play 3 more copies of Blaster Dark in the right deck. You play 4 copies of the main. Yes, money card, haha, mommy. 4 copies of Matcha. Surprised she came back. 1 ace unit. This one's just a tech pick. I just like this one. And then 2 copies of my goat, the Knight of Darkness, Rugos. Thank you, Mr. Kidani, for bringing Rugos to standard, because this is my favorite Rugos art. This is so good. I love it. Rugos has the same skill as Aichi Icon Gallatin. The only difference and why I'm playing it here is because Ren Icon desperately needs shield, right? I know I've made the argument not to play Aichi Icon Gallatin in Blaster Blade, although there are people who say play it. I do think it is not a bad card. I just wouldn't want to play it myself because we want the 1-card starters. But now that we have Akane in Aichi Icon, you don't really need Zero Tendo that much, so you can play Gallatin. For Ren Icon, it's completely different. You need to play Rugos because this deck has no hand. This deck absolutely has no way to defend itself beyond the basic accesses of triggers. You will absolutely need this as an additional twin cards in this deck. In addition, Rugos is a nice 15k beat stick when you go first, especially when you have a grade 3 Vanguard. But like honestly, like you can just discard him to right and he's just a twin cast. Like that's really what Rugos is for. In a world where Rugos did not need to check a grade 3 Ren Icon Vanguard, I absolutely play at 4. Like, that is how fun this card is, right? But then again, this is the same design space as Malgrigas, as Gallatin, so I can't really complain about that. Overall though, I'm just happy I even get a chance to slot Rugos in this deck, because I know a lot of people who just don't play Rugos. I think that's a real shame if you ask me, because he's just that good for this deck. This deck genuinely lives and dies by sacking, so the extra turns you can stay alive means so much to me as a player. And of course, that obviously means that, you know, you want to build as many 1-card starters as you can, right? So every card you see here is just a 1-card starter. Ace unit is no exception. You just EB3, top 7, call a guy, and that's it. It's not a Ren Icon. It's the only card here that's not a Ren Icon, so like, you know, you can't really retire it. But the Ace unit is still a pretty good 20k beat stick or 25k beat stick depending on how you use it. And I don't think that's too shabby at all. Unlike Aichi Icon, where I absolutely detest playing the Ace unit inside, I think the Ren Icon deck actually can support the Ace unit pretty well, because we just don't have that many energy users. Like, you have Blaster Dark, and then you have the main, and that's it. That is it. Everything else doesn't use energy, so I think it's pretty alright for you to keep the Ace unit in this deck. Again, this one is more of a personal choice. If you don't want to, you don't need to. But I just think it's nice enough that you can consider it. Plus, it won't be the first time a cover card of a Festival Booster assisted Blaster Dark in Standard. Won't name names here. Grade 2, we have Matcha, who's back again. This one, I have a lot of mixed feelings about. Matcha, when placed on the Vanguard circle, if you Vanguard of a Ren Icon, you can Calm Blast 1 and do one of the following. Either draw a card, so it's Vibatsuka! Woo! Vibatsuka! Or you can just choose a grade 1 card with a Ren Icon, or a Blaster Dark, and call it to a Rearguard circle. And then that's it. So, yeah, I mean, wait, does it say Ren Icon? I'm pretty sure Matcha says Ren Icon. Let me I should really get better glasses, man. Oh no. Yeah, it's a grade 1 with a Ren Icon or Blaster Dark with a Ren Icon. So they won't even let you search the 2021 Blaster Dark. That is so strange. It's like, who is going to play 2021 Blaster Dark in the main deck? Who? You know that whole shtick about Gordon being specifically called by an Aichi icon, King of Knights, Alfred. Why is this a necessary restriction? Who in their bright minds is gonna go, I love a 15k vanilla. I don't. You see, this kind of wording pisses me off because I'm like, who is so stupid to do that? But like, fine. You know what? I'll let it go. It being able to call a grade 1 from your drop is pretty nice. You can use this to call Iron Rod. I don't play Iron Rod in this deck. I love Iron Rod, but this version I'm trying it out with a different card, which you'll find out very soon. Is also a pretty nasty generic. But other than that, yeah, it's not too bad. It's not the end of the world. I will try and store an Iron Rod in this deck like later on if I can, but you don't really need it. Most of the time, you just use this for the C-Brown called Blaster Dark, because like I said, if you don't have Blaster Dark, you can't play the game, right? That's just how the way it is. So the second skill is very simple. It is if your Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater Ren Icon, this unit gets 5k power and 5k shield. So again, just like Rugos, it's more survivability. Ren Icon has a lot of cheap shield and a lot of random points, and the fact that the Vanguard is an 18k Vanguard anytime, anywhere, it's an interesting way to make up for the lack of sheer value that Shadow Paladins are historically famous for, by just making every card have extra shield, which is nice. But when you fight against buddy fight, you're gonna lose, man. You're gonna lose. Then you have the main. The main, this one's pretty obvious. The main is still 5k because Bushiroad is hooked on that whole ideology of but what if the V was funny? So we're still doing this gimmick 8 years later. Just let go, man. Just let go. When placed on the Vanguard circle, if your Vanguard has a Ren Icon, EB3 and move 1 card to the soul and draw 2 cards. Alright. Sure. Yeah, okay. So they just took the old main from 2022 and just changed it from Counter Blast to Energy Blast. Sure. And her condition to get additional 5,000 power is if you have a Vanguard with a Ren Icon, then it's always 10k. And then after that, if your Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater, it gets boost. So I guess they understood that this deck has too many grade 2s printed in the card pool, so they just gave her a boost. You know what? That's fine. I'm alright with that. I'm not upset with that decision. I thought I'll be upset with that decision. I'm not. The last skill is, during your turn, when your Vanguard's ability to Ren Icon needs to retire rearguards, this unit can be counted as 2 units for the retire. So you can just use the main as a 1-card sacrifice for your Phantom Blaster Dragon. Again, this is a design space that was heavily placed in, especially in old standard, like in 2021D. Like if you read all the Phantom Blaster Dragon cards, they all have this stupid skill. It didn't age well because they didn't cycle into each other. But the main being able to cycle and then get sacked off, this is good. Honestly, I like this very much. So again, this one is a good one because you can tell they learned from Vergadale and they learned from Kriduna. But it's so funny that you just can't play Vergadale and Kriduna in this deck because it's not a Ren Icon. So what gives? I don't understand. You can't even play Dara in this deck, so I miss them very much. But this is for the best. And then moving on to our grade 1s. Our grade 1s are even simpler, right? Because there's even lesser of them, if you can believe that. So for our grade 1s, we still play Blaster Javelin in the right deck, but we don't need extra copies of Blaster Javelin anymore. We play 4 copies of the new Ren Icon Charon, 4 copies of the Darkness Shield Magleer, and 4 copies of Bell Sister Coco. The Magleer is just Shadow Paladin PG. Like, you can play Esras if you want. Like, there is no skill that lets you search Magleer in this deck. Like, it doesn't have to specifically be Ren Icon for anything at this point. It's just retiring Ren Icon cards with Phantom Blaster Dragon. So this is mostly if you use Magleer off Babka, you can retire it and go, haha, he did that in the anime. And that's the most you get out of this. But Magleer being 100 yen, thank you. Because did you see the price on Estras when she came out? Like, holy crap, like I'm not paying that again. So okay, you know what? I'm happy for that. Charon is another key card in this deck, probably the last key card in your cover besides Blaster Javelin. Charon, as during your turn, if your Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater Ren Icon from the drop zone and you don't have another Rearguard this unit, Soul Blast 1 and call this card to a Rearguard circle, and this unit gets 5,000 power. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater. So this is just a repeatable grade 1 guy that comes back on the board. It's kind of like Maple, but with extra steps, which is interesting because it shows that they did study what the original Phantom Blaster Dragon did. That, you know, PBD players used to play Maples in their main deck, so that you ride, you call, you ride, you call. This one, they just made it costed, but you know what? I can't be upset because Soul is not really a big issue in this deck beyond Blaster Dark. The drop zone skill is you can remove 2 Charons with the same name, and then you can counter charge 1 as long as your Vanguard has a Ren Icon. So because of the way it's phrased, you can actually play old Charon and new Charon together, but the thing is that you wouldn't really do that because you kind of want new Charon in the drop zone at every point in time just so you can do the skill. Last but not least, we have Belle's sister Coco. This one is just a generic, like if you've watched any of my Majesty of Blaster videos, you know what this does. You're playing this oversell Gown, I dare say, because it can rearrange the top 2 cards of your deck, give you extra soul, and has extra shield, which is everything this deck desperately needs right now because you have no soul, you have no board, you have no top deck abilities, you can't use Psycholia if you don't get the stack. So I am grateful that this deck has a slot to play I'm grateful that this deck has a slot to play Coco. This is an expensive generic, I won't lie to you, but this one over Cell Gown, I'll say, is necessary. But if you can only afford Cell Gown for some queer reason, then sure, you can just play this over that. You just need a grade 1 Keta generic that has aggro. Like, if you want to play the shield generate from, you know, Legendary Duelist, you can do that. You can play anything, honestly. It's just that if you ask me to choose a grade 1 Keta unit that actually supports aggression and supports the Ren Icon gameplay, it's going to be Coco. Which is funny, because, you know, when they eventually do the Misaki encounter deck, then everyone wants this card instead, and they'll go, see, I told you, it was a good card. And now for the grade zeros. The grade zeros, we're still on the best boy, Full Bow. Yes, Full Bow still here in the right deck. Again, he didn't really go anywhere, so yeah, it's Full Bow, haha. We have Ren Icon triggers for days, so we can play Grim Reaper, Dark Side Trumpeter, Abyss Healer, Idosfara. I'm just kidding, Idosfara is not Ren Icon trigger. And just effect draw. You need Blasted Up. Please understand. The effect front won't matter. Because you have so much firepower in this deck from checking triggers, it won't matter. Like, the plus 10k is good to the front row, but why not draw? Like, you can have a whole extra card for free. You would just take that, right? You'd rather just draw it to more pieces to push and swing, push and swing, push and swing, rather than pull a front trigger on a blank front row Blaster Javelin. Like, it just doesn't make sense. So, yeah. Idosfaro, like I mentioned previously, this is my choice of the old trigger. As I mentioned in the right deck segment, you can scroll backwards. Velnot's a perfectly good option because of its interaction Blaster Dart. I just don't want that interaction in that deck. I just don't feel it's worth it. But you know something? Yeah, since I have a minute to spare, you know this guy, Grim Reaper? Okay, where is my Death Feather Eagle? Bushiroad, I know who's on your payroll. You could have brought him back. Where's Death Feather Eagle? Disappointing. And that's gonna wrap up my thoughts for the Ren Icon deck for 2026 June. Because that's when I'm filming this video. I like this deck very much in terms of a design perspective. I think being able to completely overhaul a deck that you just stop supporting overall is the best way to give a deck that you stop supporting overall. Like, this feels like a Barsagra treatment, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just swap the whole deck up. The bad news is that Ren Icon's good cards that it could have gotten from PBO, you just can't bring it over because of how insular the Ren Icon name is. Unlike Barsagra, when you can just take out Trick Moon and your whatever the hell you used to believe in and slot him inside for a tier 0 deck, we can't really do that with Phantom Blaster Dragon because of how restrictive Ren Icon is, that they want you to play all Icon and nothing else, right? So like, the second you want to play Vergadale, the second you want to play Kriduna, you just can't, and it's so puzzling to me. Ren Icon is a deck that, frankly, I have a lot of fun with, not as much as Fafnir, but I still think this is, like, as a Shadow Bandit fan, if you can call myself that, this is very, very flavorful, very, very nostalgic, and it's honestly very fun. The only real downside is that beyond turn 3, you just really don't do anything. And like, I know why, I know that they're waiting for Phantom Blaster Overlord, but it's just really weird to print a deck that has half a game plan. Like, what's the deal, guys? Why do I need half a game plan for? Unfortunately, while it sounds like I'm complaining, this deck is still pretty good. This deck actually can kill people, and if you can go first for a whole tournament, effectively you can go 9-0. Like, I'm really not joking when I say that this deck's firepower is really good. It's just that it only really does things for like the one grade 3 turn, and then every other turn you just pray Idosfaro, pray Idosfaro, pray Idosfaro, which after a while, Psycholia can only bring you so far, as we have learned from the anime. So, yeah, that's really about all I can say though, but I want you to leave this video on a good note, because this is a good deck. This is a fun deck. And if you are a Ren Icon fan with a bit of extra disposable income, you should buy this deck, because I've really liked it. And if you like any era of Phantom Blaster Dragon, I guarantee you will like it as well. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Take care. And yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'll just spend an extra minute talking because I can. I'm honestly just really happy I could afford this deck. Like, I missed the pre-order for this deck and I was really pissed. And I ended up paying extra for the deck. So I'm just really glad I actually got it. I had to pay extra, but like, I think it was totally worth me paying that extra money, because I've had so much fun with this deck. This was my first standard deck, like in terms of full standard deck. This was my first full standard deck, and I don't think I've ever looked back into buying this guy, like into buying Ren Icon Phantom Blaster Dragon, because like it is honestly really addictive to play. Like, it is just I want to say it's like a lottery deck, but it's not. It's much more consistent than that. But you still need to check triggers to win this deck, absolutely. So, yeah. But this is not like the jank-ass PBO deck where they do, haha, 6 drive, haha, this is my personality, haha, 6 drive. You don't need that anymore. But this is fun enough. So, yeah. That's my extra minute of talking. Alright, bye-bye.